Usually when I discuss a film, I will watch the film, maybe glance over my notes, and immediately start talking about it. But with Buried, I had to sit for about 20 minutes just to be able to do anything. This is an amazing film, but I never, ever want to watch it again. This is a 2010 film directed by Rodrigo, Cortés, written by Chris Sparling, and stars Ryan Reynolds. And Reynolds plays a character called Paul Conroy. And at the very beginning of the film, he is trapped in a coffin. And he is a truck driver working in Iraq. Over the course of the film, we learn about how he ended up in this coffin, and it's a race against time to hopefully try and get him out alive. I did wonder how they would sustain the premise for the full hour and a half, give or take. And apart from a few moments where it was a little slow here and there, they really managed to keep things going without it ever feeling repetitive or monotonous with the same things happening. Every now and then something slightly different would happen, or we'd get a bit of forward motion, or something dramatic would happen, and it was intense, and I felt sick. Like most people, I am claustrophobic, and this is, again, like many people, my worst nightmare. There was one moment in the film where he had been asleep, and he wakes up, or at least opens his eyes, and looks at his watch, and it just made me realise that must be a horrific feeling, not just the feeling that you're trapped in a coffin, but that you're just waiting to die or to be rescued, whichever is going to happen first. And that must be absolutely horrendous. And Ryan Reynolds' performance was absolutely amazing. It was a really, really wonderful performance, and honestly, a very terrifying experience. The whole film was intense and everything I imagined it would be. There are a couple of things that frustrated me, and I will talk about those in a moment, and I will also talk about the ending, but with a spoiler warning. It's one of the best films I've ever seen, but also I will never watch it again. I cannot go through that again, because we are so up close and personal with Paul while he's in this coffin. It's very well filmed. We have some amazing camera angles. It is like we're there. And it is so easy to feel like you are feeling what Paul is feeling. And that's a horrible experience. It's amazing, but it's horrible. And I have almost nothing but praise. There are one or two things, one thing mostly that kind of irritated me, but in general, it's an incredible film, and I cannot recommend it enough, but don't expect a pleasant experience. It is an amazing experience, but not one I ever want to have to go through again, because it's too realistic. So I will now, with a spoiler warning, talk about a few things, including what happens at the very end. So huge spoilers from now. There are two things that kind of irritated me, and the first is the snake. The snake added nothing, and I didn't really care for it, and it also kind of made me think, well, if that snake can get out, it can get in and out, maybe the wood's not as... Well, I was going to say maybe the wood's not as structurally sound as perhaps we might have thought, but at the same time, if that was me, and obviously I'm not in that situation, but if it was and I could see that there was a hole in the wood, I would be kicking it and slamming it and doing everything I can, because we know he's not that far underground. We know that he's close enough to the surface that he can get a phone reception. So I would be doing everything I could to try and get out. And this is also the same thing. This isn't something that annoyed me too much, but with the sand that started pouring in, by that point I genuinely thought I was going to throw up. But again, if that were me, I'd think, okay, there's a break in the wood, let's just try and break the entire thing. Yes, the sand will come in more quickly, but again, we're not that far from the surface of the earth. So my thinking is that the sand would come in more quickly, but it would also have a bigger opening if you smash the wood of the entire coffin. Again, this is just me thinking what could have happened if the wood wasn't as structurally sound as we perhaps initially thought. And Obviously, I've never been in that situation. I don't know if that's the case, but that's how I would have responded. Maybe that would have been a terrible response. Maybe I would have died much more quickly than if I had just, laid there and done nothing. But certainly for me, that would have been my response. And the other thing that really irritated me to no end, but I understand why he did it, is that Paul was told, preserve your phone battery. We need it to track the GPS and to try and get a hold of you if we need to. So what does he do? He spends the entire duration of the film on his phone. And it just annoyed me so much. I get really paranoid if my phone battery is running low and I'm not in a coffin. I would literally never touch my phone if I think my battery is running low. And yet all he does is touch it. But, as I said, I kind of understand why, because his alternative is to lie there and do nothing. So he needs to feel like he is doing something. But again, if I thought that my only way out was them tracking my GPS, then I definitely wouldn't be messing about on my phone, phoning everybody and using it constantly. So that kind of irritated me as well. But these are minor irritations that didn't affect my overall enjoyment of the film. And then we have the ending. It's not what I expected. Genuinely is not 100% how I thought it was going to end. I honestly thought that right at the very end, they'd lift the lid on the coffin, the light would come pouring in, and then it would, fade to white. And that didn't happen. And we learned that they went to the wrong coffin. They found the coffin of Mark White, who had not been found. That was something clever, I guess, to tell Paul to give him hope. I like what they did there. Might not be the most morally sound, but certainly if it gave him hope, that's a good thing. But then, literally in the last few seconds, we learn that they have found a coffin and they're just about to get to Paul. They are seconds away from lifting that lid on that coffin and getting him out of there alive. And we learn it's the wrong one. And honestly, I've never felt my heart being ripped out of my chest so much at the end of a film before. Ever, because that sense of hope, that relief, that knowing that help is mere seconds away and he's about to be saved from death, and it's going to be the best, happiest, most uplifting sense of relief ever, and instead the weight of the world comes crashing down on us and it's the wrong coffin. And it's I can't even imagine what that would feel like. After I watched that ending, those last few seconds, as I said, I couldn't really do anything. I just had to sit with it until the feeling passed. Because as I said, because we are so much up close and personal with Paul in this, and it very much feels like we're in this coffin, it is like all of the emotions are very real, and obviously that's a great credit to the film. But it also means that those emotions at the very end also feel very real. And it took a bit of time to get over them and to overcome them. And that was very difficult. But again, it's amazing. I can't. There are no words. There are no words to describe how I felt. And I can't even imagine what it would have been like to see this in the cinema. I'm assuming it had a cinema release. That would have been the most amazing but horrendous experience. To be fair, the film itself was an amazing but horrendous experience, and this was actually recommended to me, and as soon as I read what it was about, I thought, yes, this sounds like something I'd really enjoy, and I did. I can't say that, apart from a few small things here and there, I can't say there's anything about it that didn't work for me, but I don't want to ever watch it again. It's the kind of film where I'd say to somebody, you need to see this. You absolutely need to watch this film. But also, I'm not going to watch it with you. So I have nothing but praise for it, really. And I thoroughly recommend it. But just be prepared for a brutal experience. It's completely worth it. And I'm so glad that I watched it. But I will never be watching it again.